Hey everybody, it is March 6, 2022, and welcome to another Big Blend Radio Champagne Sundays anniversary show. This one is in honor of women around the world, women in history, women of the now, and we are airing live from sunny Anacortes, Washington. It is a beautiful day with a lot of birds outside, right, Nancy?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
As usual, we're your hosts, Nancy, Reid, and Lisa Smith, the crazy mother-daughter travel team on our Love Your Parks tour, where we document parks and public lands as we travel full-time across the country. And we publish Big Blend magazines, which is growing into being 8 different digital magazines. You can check out AoedeTV.com. Like I was saying, this is one of our special anniversary shows. We are celebrating our Silver Jubilee, because Nancy and I both have gray hair now.
I beg your pardon.
I know, just kidding. Well, it's interesting. Let's put it that way.
You're way ahead of
25 years of our publishing our Big Blend magazines in this country. 15 years of broadcasting Big Blend Radio right here on blogtalkradio.com. And 10 years of traveling on our Love Your Parks tour. So we're going to be doing a lot of these special shows throughout the year. We started them off actually at the end of 2021. And who knows, we'll just keep rocking the broadcasts. Mm-hmm. And we do air daily on bigblendradio.com with a lot of recorded podcasts, especially through Zoom, so you can watch in video or listen in audio. So keep up with us there and sign up for our newsletter. It's also a great way to keep up with recent articles, interviews, and digital magazines. So today's show, like I said, is a toast to women around the world. On March 8th, it is International Women's Day. We have a special broadcast with 4 travel writers, women travel writers. It is also Women's History Month. So we've got a lot to talk about, and we have some amazing guests joining us. And before we bring them all on and get on that Big Blend party bus to travel around, I just want to give a shout-out. Steve Piacenti, one of our Big Blend experts, he's a life coach and author. He said just to say hi to everyone, and he's saying he's finding enormous inspiration from his 6 granddaughters, which their ages range from 8 months to 6 years. Wow. And I want to tell you, one of them is actually on the very front cover of our new Quality of Life magazine, which you can see on BlendRadioandTV.com. It goes with his story about the benefits of travel, how it can change your view and change your perspective. So it's a good story. But we have some great guests joining us. We're also going to be airing Steve Schneickert's Hollywood History on Women Activists. And we have some new music from Edwin, Durant, and Koftun called Big Door. And this is a special broadcast, especially for the people of Ukraine. So are we ready to get started, Nancy?
Sure. Let's go.
Am I allowed to toast to you since you're my mother and partner? And it's Women's History Day, so, you've made a lot of your own history. So I think I should just start with that. Is that good with you?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And back at you.
Well, thank you. All right. Pop that bubbly. Let's go to England. All right, we're getting on the... Hey, we did. And listen, we're going to England. This Big Blend party bus is being driven by our pink sock monkey, Priscilla. She's our travel mascot. And she knows how to push one button and get us there safely.
She does.
So our bus trek is going from Anacortes, Washington, to England, Norfolk, England, and East Anglia to pick up Glynn. So listen, it is. We're in Norfolk, England right now. Hope you can all see how beautiful it is. We're here to pick up Glynn Burrows, who will be sitting with us on the entire show. And everyone, you can go to norfolk-tours.co.uk to learn more about what Glynn does. He takes people on customized tours around Norfolk, East Anglia, and actually all of England. And he's also a family history buff. So welcome back, Glynn. How are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good.
You girls all right?
Good. Can you hear us okay?
Well, you sound as if you're in a toilet, but apart from that, you're all right.
Oh, toilet.
Well, it's better than, I guess, not in the toilet.
I think you actually call them bathrooms, but in England we call them toilets if there's only a toilet.
Yeah, thanks for defining that. Thought I'd have to get some scuba gear.
Well, Glynn, we're excited that you and hopefully try and pull me out of the toilet. You know, for a big person like me, you don't want to flush me down.
Actually, you sound like you went further down, Lisa.
Yeah, I was going to say she's definitely gone round the bend.
Yeah, she's swimming.
Should we carry on with that?
So, Glynn,
I don't know. Lisa?
Glynn, I'm going to try and fix my toilet situation, but can you tell everybody, like, one woman that you would like to raise a glass to?
Yeah, of course. Well, there's so many to choose from. We're so lucky in Norfolk. We've got so many women to choose from. But I think that the one that all of you will remember, and the one that sort of always sticks out in my mind is Princess Diana. Because
sure.
I mean, she was born in Norfolk, so I have to really feel close to Diana. She was born in Norfolk, and but also she was just such a person who thought about other people so much, and you know, that is something that I think I really respected about her. I know she had her problems like everybody else, but I think that made her even more human, so that she was like anybody else, because she went through the bad times as well as the good times, and I think her interaction with, as I put it in inverted commas, normal people, was that it really did make her one of the most loved members of the royal family.
Yeah,
and I think that is really, really something.
She was graceful, you know, just naturally graceful. She didn't have to study it or work at it. She was naturally kind and graceful. That's what I remember most about her. Like, she didn't get flummoxed or angry. She just seemed naturally graceful.
Yeah, and I think the way that she interacted with children and with people who were less fortunate than she is, I mean, the way she interacted with people is great. And I mean, she was one of the first members of the royal family who we actually saw her bringing up her children. Because before her, most of the royal family had nannies and people who did all the looking after of the children. I know Diana probably had a nanny as well. But what I'm saying is we saw her actually interacting as a mum, having fun with her children. And we saw that. And that is the first time we actually saw that with members of the royal family. She was like everybody else in lots and lots of ways. And it's such a shame that her life got cut short so young.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
sad.
That really was. But, you know, as a woman who I think, you know, we can all look at and learn something from, I think she definitely was one of the people who I think everybody in the world had some affection for, even though like, she had her rough points as well as her nice points. But I do remember that soon after she died, I went to Sandringham, which is where the Queen has her private accommodation in Norfolk, a private house, and the gate, the whole area outside the gate was absolutely covered in flowers. Which just proves, I think, what the general public thought about her. You know, she was well loved by people.
That's lovely, Glynn.
Are you out of the toilet yet?
No.
I don't know.
You sound like you have a life raft.
I'm trying to get me out here.
Oh, you have that echoing now?
Yeah, you have an echo.
Oh, dear. But then again, I mean, when you think about it, you know, I'm sitting in my dining room, actually, in the middle of Norfolk, and I don't know where you're in Washington, you say?
Yes.
And we can talk to each other. So this is pretty amazing. If there's just a little echo, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? When we can do this. I think it is. You know. And
well, we have a little echo.
Yeah.
So we're going to get back on the bus. And get rid of the echo.
Drive to a different location.
And we're going to go to Minneapolis.
Okay.
And pick up Mike Guardia. So, Mike Guardia, how are you?
Good.
I'm sorry, I'm in the toilet.
You sound like twins. Twins in the toilet.
I know.
That's okay. The echo's not that bad.
We're getting there. We're getting there. But Mike is an award-winning military historian and author. Go to MikeGuardia.com. So, Mike, give a shout out to women that you want to raise a toast to.
All right. Well, at the risk of sounding sappy, I really want to raise a toast to my two young daughters who, by every measurable standard, are the light of my life, and they are two incredible young ladies who, continue to impress me every day. They are the sweetest people I've ever met. They can make friends easier than anyone I've ever known, and they have a great degree of empathy, and I know that whatever it is they choose to do, they are going to be a success, and they are going to influence positive change wherever they go.
Awesome. I love that.
We love that.
Yeah.
So, we're going to travel on again. Am I still in the toilet?
Yeah.
This is Women's History Show.
Actually, I think you're making your way through the sewer system.
Oh, boy. I'll get there. Stay tuned. We're going to San Diego to pick up fine art, nature photographer Margot Carrera. Margot, how are you?
I'm great, and hello to the two wonderful women that I would like to toast, Nancy and Lisa, because I think I've known you for the 25 years.
Yeah.
Because I remember when you were just starting out, and I'm just so impressed how you've built your media empire. I'm going to call it an empire.
Oh, my God.
Yes, I really see it growing and growing leaps and bounds even now, and from where it began to where it is, and how you just kept moving along and took a lot of courageous journeys, such as the parks tour. That was amazing, and moved from place to place, and just opened up new parts of your business. It's a wonderful model for the younger people getting into media, and see what staying with something and just the way you help people along the way, and help them grow their businesses, and empower women, like you empower me to do my art, and you empower travel guides to talk about travel, and you're just out there empowering so many people and to get their messages out. And so I lift my glass to you. And later I'll talk about some family members, but who I'm have inspired me, but I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, you two girls, ladies, totally inspire me.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. I think you may have lifted me out of the toilet. Did that happen?
Oh, yay, see? I told you it would be good.
It was all about Margot, man. I swear she knows what's going on. And thank you so much, Margot. We raise a glass to you and all that you've done through your art, your nature. You're always just this light of positivity. And so we raise a glass to you. And I got to raise a glass also. There's a lot of wine going around now. Mike Guardia's daughters, because he always posts about her, and both of them, and so positive. And they're going to be such wonderful young ladies in the world doing great things. And we've got to give a toast to Glynn's wife, Diane, who apparently makes the best cheese scones in England. So one day Glynn will be running a scone shop.
Yeah.
But we're going to go to Tucson, Arizona now to pick up the Tucson dude, Lance Labor, over at DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun. My gosh, does it feel good to be out of the toilet? Did I just tell you that? It is so much. It feels so good. You wouldn't know. I hope no one knows. Lance, Tucson dude over at DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing good. I got out of the toilet. I get to be a free woman. So here's that to some history, women's history.
That's excellent. Very excellent.
Lance, it's always good to have you on the show. Lance is he's the executive director of the DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun in Tucson. It's a 10-acre National Historic Landmark, and it houses the work of famous Arizona artist Ted DeGrazia, who trained under the apprenticeship of Rivera. I'm going to get it. Jose Orozco, and then also Diego Rivera. And but Marian DeGrazia is also a huge part of the gallery. And Lance, you knew Marian and while she was alive, and she's since passed. But her and DeGrazia's are laid to rest at the gallery, right? In different ways.
I knew her for a long time, and she was very special. They certainly broke the mold when she was born. I didn't really know anyone that was quite like her, but she was a very talented woman, and she was partly responsible for DeGrazia's success, and she was very interesting, and it was interesting knowing her most of my life.
You used to do the crossword with her, right?
Yeah, she used to make me come over in the morning early, and we would have coffee and do the crossword puzzle, and
that's cool.
Usual stuff that you do. But she was a very, very smart woman. She went to school at Columbia, and she was a very fine artist in her own right. But she managed to, she took on that typical woman's role. She stayed in the background of him and let him be out front, which is kind of too bad. But I guess that was the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh? How things. But her art, to me, she did some beautiful jewelry too. She did it. She was like him in that way, that she didn't seem to limit herself of what she did in art.
Yeah, no, she did a lot of sculpture. She used a lot of natural materials, shells and wood and driftwood and windwood, and she put all this stuff together, and she had a beautiful eye. I have to give her that. She had a really beautiful eye, the way things fit together. And I did really appreciate her art.
I think both of them really thought way outside the box. Now I get the echo.
I don't hear it.
Oh, I do.
Hear an echo.
Okay. Oh, well. But they both thought outside the box when it came to nature and art.
Yeah, they did. Well, I mean, they being from the Southwest, everything had to do with the desert and minerals and rocks and they just they appreciated the aesthetic of the desert very much so, and used it to their advantage.
I want to tell people that, we've done a lot with DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun over the years. And if you go to nationalparktraveling.com, you'll see a bunch, and blendradioandtv.com, you'll see a bunch. And wherever we go, we find Ted DeGrazia, something to do with Ted DeGrazia. It's amazing. But stay tuned, because our next guest is coming on, Lee Brovedani, the trust architect. She's over in Nova Scotia today. And we're trying to figure out our time zones, because apparently she's got a whole other new time zone. So stay tuned. We're going to get our next guest on this segment is Lee Brovedani. She is known as the Trust Architect. And can you hear at all? I don't think you can.
Well, I can hear you.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, there you go. That's good. I'm glad you could hear, because I can't hear anything. But that's good.
I was going to say it's the late, great Lee Brovedani, who is obviously time zone challenged. So
No, I think I am.
So. Okay, it's cutting out. I don't know if that's from here.
Okay, are you there, Lee?
Okay, I can hear you fine now.
Okay,
there we go. Huh. Oh, so there. Can we hear each other yet? I can kind of hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
This is Nancy.
I can hear you. This is like that commercial, know, where people are walking through the woods. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so it's Lisa you can't hear.
Ah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gosh. Lisa?
Hey, Nance, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I can't believe I did that. And I wish I could say it's the first time I'm so good with different time zones, but actually no.
Well, time is time, and it marches on, whether you like it or not.
It does.
So, Lisa, are you there yet? Lisa would like me to ask you, which woman are you going to speak about today that you admire?
The woman that I'd like to speak about is a woman who, because I'm in Nova Scotia right now, there was a woman by the name of Ruth Goldblum.
Uh-huh.
And she was a pretty amazing woman who got so much accomplished. And a lot of times it was just because Ruth had a hard time saying no. So when someone really gave her a good, they'd ask her to get something done, Ruth was one of those people who would say, well, since I'm the only one who seems to be stepping up.
Yeah. And so she'd get things done. That's cool.
Yeah. And she was, had a big heart and a brilliant mind. So
that's awesome. Can't ask for more than that.
Yeah.
Are you back yet, Lisa? Okay. Lisa went on a vacation.
Okay.
In the toilet. Miss Lisa, would you like to come here?
Hey, Lisa. I don't blame you for not wanting to talk to me, but this is getting ridiculous. This is a radio show. You should be talking.
Uh-oh. You just got in trouble.
Okay.
Because Lee Brovedani said, this is a radio show and you should be talking. Get your act together. Okay, so now we're going to go to Mike Guardia, and he's going to tell us about Lisa. Oh, we're going to talk about a fighter pilot woman. Mike, are you there?
Okay.
Okay,
yep,
so Mike
I'm
can
still
hear
here.
me. Okay, cool. Sorry, Mike, for the drama here.
I'm here.
No
Were you
problem.
there, Lisa?
Yes. I just wanted to make sure Mike talked, because we don't want to. I know everyone's like, we're not happy with what's going on with Russia, but there were some really amazing fighter pilots in Russia, and you covered them in one of your books, Mike. I'm back.
Yep.
Oh, the Night Witches.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, I know that. I know that talking about anything having to do with the Russian Federation right now isn't the most popular topic in the blogosphere, but it is appropriate for the context of what we're talking about right now, because when we look at when we look at the collective valor that was demonstrated on the battlefield, and also in the third dimension of World War II, you see that a lot of the most successful military personnel of the Eastern Front were women, and it's quite interesting because the Soviet Union, they were unique among the Allies in the sense that they were the only combating party that did not have any formal restrictions on women in combat. They said, if you have a pulse and if you are able-bodied, then we welcome you to try and fight for the glory of the Soviet Union. Wow. And to that end, they established a lot of female segregated units. And I don't think that it was any coincidence that a lot of the top performing units of the entire Soviet military were those who were staffed entirely by women. And if you take a look at some of the names who rise to the top in terms of their accomplishments, you see that some of the most successful female snipers along the Eastern Front were women. And pound for pound, the most successful female fighter pilot in history was a lady by the name of Lydia Litviak, and she at the very young age of only 21 was one of the most distinguished fighter aces on the Eastern Front. Was credited with shooting down a number of enemy planes before she ultimately met her own demise, but she was known on both sides of the conflict, and it was a testament to just how tough and resilient the women on the Russian front could be.
Wow,
it's amazing. I mean, when you think about all of the women that they get hidden in history, and Mike definitely. Right. Mike, which book was it that was it Foxtail? Which one was it? Foxbat Tales? Trying to remember which
War on the Eastern Front.
War on the Eastern Front, yeah. Mike has written over 21 books now, and you can hear him on our first Monday military show. So tomorrow he'll be on talking about prisoner of war camps in World War II and in Vietnam. But he is also featured on the History Channel now with a new series called I Was There. Cool. He's been on talking about the Johnston flood, Chernobyl, and he's got more coming out with the Battle of Stalingrad and the Oklahoma City bombing. So a lot going on. Mike, you're just rocking the world of history. It's amazing to watch you grow. It really is.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Very cool. Awesome. And, Danger Forward, The Forgotten Wars of General Paul F. Gorman is the latest book, too. But, Glynn, we talk about, World War II and all of that. That's something that you have in history, too, is a lot of American World War II history in England.
Yeah, I mean, even this afternoon, I was around my daughter's for lunch, and we went and had a walk on the airfield because my daughter lives on a World War II American airfield. Well, it's an English airfield, but it was used by the Americans. Liberator bombers were there, and we were walking along the perimeter track, and where my son-in-law now has a combine shed, it used to be one of the hangars where they had the Liberator bombers.
Oh, wow.
We are surrounded by World War II airfields and some World War I airfields, actually, in Norfolk, because we are perfectly positioned to get from England to the continent because we're on that east coast, you see. I was actually thinking just now while Mike was talking, and a lot of women were doing things during World War I, World War II, and obviously previously with people like Florence Nightingale. I mean, they were doing things behind the scenes which were as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than a lot of the men were doing. Like, Edith Cavell was a woman from Norfolk who helped a load of people get out of Belgium in World War I, Allied soldiers. And she was shot by the Germans because she was, taken as being a spy because she was working, for the British. And there were women doing that sort of thing, working in the underground. I mean, not the metro, the underground work doing behind the scenes. And women were taking a large part of that. So, we have to remember that, we don't know these names. Well, we do locally, but they're not internationally named, and they didn't necessarily get medals and things. But actually, they were amazingly brave for doing what they did.
I agree. I want to go over, and everyone, Glynn is on our show every fourth Saturday on Big Glen Radio. His latest was talking about spring in Norfolk. The one before that was talking about the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen of England. And now I want to go over to Margot. We have a fourth Friday Nature Connection show with Margot. And Lee is on every third Thursday to talk about trust, and her next one is all about bridges. I mean, when you cross a bridge, come on, I'm thinking about you, Mike, in a tank, when you were serving. I mean, going over a bridge in a tank. I don't know do you even go over a bridge in a tank? Like, seriously. No way.
You can take a tank over a bridge. It really depends on how much weight the bridge can support. Part of what you see in ongoing military operations is an intelligence process where you have an entire section of intel soldiers who try to identify key infrastructure points, and one of the things that they look for specifically are bridges and what weight accommodations that any bridges have to either support convoy movements or not support them. So you can take a tank over a bridge. It's probably not something I recommend, though.
Lee, this is a whole other thing we didn't talk about.
No, the actual engineering structure is not something that you and I, we talked about how you had to trust the engineers who were building it, but not, the load structure of each bridge. Can I just ask Mike a question about I read a great book about the night witches, which were what the women who were the air pilots in Russia were called, because the airplanes they went up in were so flimsy, but they could be so silent that they could swoop down really close to the ground, and the sound of and correct me if I'm wrong, the sound of the plane sounded like a swish, and it sounded almost like a broom, and so they were called the night witches because they could go up to and drop bombs from a very low place, and the airplanes they went up to sounded awful. Like, how could they support them?
Yeah, spot on. So, stealth was definitely something that helped the night witches in all of their nighttime bombing operations. But when you take a look at the quality of the aircraft that what was put out by the Red Air Force, there's very little question that quality was something that took a back seat only for the sake of getting as many planes in the sky as humanly possible. Because, if you take a look specifically at a lot of the, Yakolev series aircraft that was produced by the Soviet Union, you would have a series of fighters, and you would have a standard design for that particular fighter aircraft. But whenever the design bureau would make an adjustment to it, they would mix the plans and the specs for a lot of the earlier designs, so that when the schematic diagrams would get to the factory, they would have incompatible parts, and they would have to drill in new holes just to try and make a slapdash fighter together to try and look something like what they saw on the design table. So you had these you had a lot of these early Yak series fighters that were put on airfields that were essentially glorified Frankensteins. They were taking different parts from different planes and trying to drill holes and make their own adapter kits just to try to make all the parts fit together.
Wow. And so the women would have to fly the planes, and then they'll also have to fix the planes. But they had to do everything, and given these really crappy little things that they had to get up into the air. So they were amazing. Mm-hmm. Like the whole story of the Night Witches was pretty. Yeah, they were.
I like their name too. I want to be a night witch. Yeah, I like that.
Night witch.
I mean, this is beyond going on my regular broom.
Let me not say anything.
I know. I do. I have a crazy broom. It gets us across the country. But I want to go to Margot, because Margot and everyone, CarreraFineArtGallery.com. Please go look at her amazing work. Margot, we do this amazing show with her every fourth Friday, looking at the environment and what we can do to protect our environment. But Margot has some interesting women in her family history. Margot, tell us, this is crazy cool. Crazy good. Like, what's going on in your history?
Yeah. Well, just to tie in with what's going on right now, my family came from the region that is now Ukraine. And yes, and starting with my father's mother, they were living over on the border of Russia and Poland, and she was living with my father and his two sisters, and in their little town, they got word that there was going to be what was called a pogrom. A pogrom is something where they would go through the village unexpectedly and knock on the doors and kill the Jews. And so my family history, I'm 99.6% Jewish, and I did the DNA testing.
I was going to say, how do you know?
I had no idea I was that much. But I was that much. And it all came from that area. So this has been an emotional thing for me, just watching it. And anyway, somebody let them know that it was going to happen. So as this pogrom came in from the other end of town, they had to pack their bags immediately, just like these people are having to do. Wow. And they had to walk out the other end of the town, not knowing where they were going to go, not having anything really much to carry. And they were very poor to begin with. It was a very poor community, and she was a single mom because her husband had gone ahead to the United States to make money to bring them over, but he never sent for them. So, so it was very interesting. Yes. So, but I was listening to Glynn too when he talked about Edith Cavell. Because what happened for my family, yes, they didn't know where to go. They didn't know, what was going to happen to them. But there was, I'm told, a duchess who smuggled the Jews out of the country. And this duchess put my family on a boat and sent them to the United States.
Wow.
So, and to this day, I don't know who she was. They never said her name, and I don't know. All I have is 2 European vases, which my grandmother carried on the boat.
Oh, no way!
And they looked like they belonged in somebody's estate, back then. And so I just want to honor all the women who are traveling with their children right now, not knowing where they're going, and just honor them and toast them, because they're very brave to take this journey. And yes, it's necessary, to protect their children. But yeah, this is still going on, and it's sad that it's still going on. But I honor my grandmother for making that journey. My father was 15 at that time, and our lives turned out beautifully. And he actually worked in South, through school, and got to go through to college, and actually owned a very large manufacturing company. So he came from out of the ashes into a good life, and a good life for his family. So I honor this ancestor, and I honor all the women who are going through this right now.
Wow. And Margot,
yeah.
Margot, you've got some other ladies in your history. Is it from the same family?
Yes.
In the Dakotas? Yeah.
Yeah. And she's actually, I looked her up on the internet, and she's actually, Wikipedia, you can find her name. Her name is Blanche Coleman, and she was born in 1884 and lived till 1978. She was, after she went to high school, she went to Washington, D.C., and actually was a secretary to a congressman. And then after that, she came back to South Dakota and started to work in Deadwood, South Dakota is where the Gold Stake mine is. That's where the gold rush took place. And Bill Hickok lived there and all those things. And she, actually, his gravesite is right across from our family's gravesite. But anyway, yeah. So she went back and worked at the mine, and she decided she wanted to be a lawyer because she was, helping with projects, but she thought she could be a lawyer just like the men. But women were not allowed to go to law school. So she decided that she would study in the library, and she studied for the bar, and she passed the bar, and they had to make her a lawyer, and she was the first woman lawyer of the state of South Dakota.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
And then my mother was similar, from the same lineage. She was born in 1914 and died in 87. And she wanted to be a medical doctor. And she went to the University of Illinois, and she was one of the first, I believe there were only 2 women, because that's all I see in the picture, graduating class. She was one of the first women doctors to get a medical degree in the state of Illinois.
Dang.
And,
see, look at this. This is incredible when you think about the history, just going from what was Ukraine and having to flee to, when we think about this whole immigration process that's going on in the world, it's just look. Look at this history.
Look what women can do, what women are capable of.
It's amazing.
And how powerful we are. These are door openers. Both women opened the door for all our female lawyers and all our female doctors, and now there's lots of them. But when they went through, like my mother tells stories of them telling her she was taking a man's place and shame on her, she'd go home and have kids. Well, she went home and had kids, but because here I am. But she went to medical school too, and she was a doctor. So till 1977. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Women can do a lot. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing the story.
Awesome.
Everyone, keep up with Margot at CarreraFineArtGallery.com. I know a lot of you have to leave and move on, and we've got another batch of awesome guests joining us to share their women history stories. So CarreraFineArtGallery.com. Stay tuned for our next show with Margot. We're going to be talking about offshore wind energy with Mike Dunmeyer, who's been on our show for years. And so, Margot, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so good to hear your voice, and thank you. What incredible stories. Thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me share.
Okay. Awesome.
Bye-bye.
You take care.
Bye. I want to give a shout-out again to Lee Brovedani, the Trust Architect. You can keep up with her at thetrustarchitect.biz. Thank you so much for calling in from Nova Scotia. I know you just arrived there, so we hope you have more fun, and thank you for sharing your story, too.
Well, thank you, and I always look forward to talking to the two of you, and usually show up on time. So.
Oh no, you did good. Listen, I just got out of the toilet. You missed half the the toilet splashing
lesson.
So, thanks for doing that. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much. Good to talk to both of you.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
In the skirmish of Lisa's toilet splashing, apparently one of us pushed a button, either Lance or myself, and he got disconnected. But we're going to play a song from the album Please Remember Me by Ted DeGrazia. And, they found his music in the manuscripts. And then the university got together, the jazz ensemble at the university in Tucson, and then also his son Domingo DeGrazia, and they recreated the music and put out an album called Please Remember Me. So because it's, we're talking about his wife, Marian DeGrazia is actually really one of my favorite artists. We're going to play the song Bonita. And everyone, we've got Glynn Burrows with us. We also have Mike Guardia, so stay tuned. Mike and Glynn, enjoy the musical break, and we've got more guests joining us in a second.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks. Here it is, Bonita.
Country of romance, where I lived, loved, and danced, lived a charming señorita, whom they all call Bonita, señorita, Bonita, please be my señorita. Bonita, my heart is calling you. Your dear eyes look so romantic to lovely señorita, whom they all call bonita, señorita.
Everyone, again, that was Bonita from the album Please Remember Me, featuring the music of Ted DeGrazia, and we just spoke about his wife, artist Marion DeGrazia. You can learn more at DeGrazia.org or visit the gallery in Tucson. You're listening to Big Glen Radio Champagne Sunday's Toast to Women show. We're looking forward to March 8th as being International Women's History Day and also Women's History Month. And right now we've got Glynn Burrows over in England with us. Glynn is the owner of Norfolk Tours and also a family history buff, and you can keep up with him at norfolk-tours.co.uk. We also have Mike Guardia, who's a military historian and author of over 21 books. His next one is coming out called Combat Diaries. You can also see him on the History Channel, and you can keep up with him at MikeGuardia.com. Mike, I do want to say, did that song remind you of your time in Texas?
It sure did. Brought back a lot of memories of being in El Paso.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, because we were real close when we were in Tucson. Yeah, because it's what. Well, I always think everything's close, but yeah, we were just in El Paso, by the way. We just drove by it the other night.
Oh, nice.
Like hi. 3 a.m. wave at El Paso as we went to Tucson. I know. Yeah, it's kind of the story of our life. But, you know, Mike, tomorrow's show, you're talking about prisoner of war camps. I did want to ask, I know we're going to focus on Vietnam and World War II. Do women ever get held in prisoner of war camps?
Yes. Well, you know, it has actually happened before. And, you know, there have been the occasions when women have been held as prisoners of war. You know, as a matter of fact, it's funny that you should mention that, because one of the latest books that I did, Skybreak, one of the flight surgeons who was featured in that book, he was married to an Army surgeon at the time, and it was his wife who was captured by Iraqi forces and was held as an American POW. If you were to Google the story of Rhonda Coram, that's her ordeal, and she even wrote a book about it years later.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you think about, you know, this history is so expansive. Glynn, look at the ladies you were talking about. Look at Margot's stories of all these women. You know? It is important to, you know, we think about these months and these days, like Black History Month too, and we go like, you know, it should be every day, but we almost, as human beings, have to have these pushes to kind of put it in the forefront. Even our national park system, as we travel, the National Park Service is starting to really focus on, you know, African American history, Latino history, you know, just Irish history, you know, just, you know, Asian history of America and women's history, because so much, I mean, even when you read literature and, you know, it's man, this, man, that, sorry guys that are on the show, but it's always men this, men that, you know, which is.
I think that is a big problem, because, I mean, I get wound up, I think was the wrong word. I just get, sometimes I get a bit annoyed when I see, you know, we've got a special month there or a special week there. But then I actually think about it, yes, it is basically, when you read the history books, it's all about white men. And that, I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, history is about everybody. But yes, it is. If you read history books, it is very often stories of white men. And it must be very annoying for people who aren't white men, who are not presented. I mean, another woman on my list really is Elizabeth Fry. Now, she's not a woman who 99% of the population of England, let alone America, have ever heard of. I mean, she used to be on our £5 note, actually, but she was a great prison reformer. So a lot of the reforms in prisons in England from Victorian times onwards are down to the fact that this woman, who was a Quaker as well, She was one of the real movers of getting prisons more habitable, but we don't hear about her. We don't hear about her because she's not somebody in the reading list of school and history and things, which is a great shame. And I'll just talk about what Mike has just been talking about, women in prison camps. There was a really good television series on the BBC, must have been in the 70s, I think, called Tenko, and that actually was a dramatization of the story of women who, after the fall of Singapore in 1942, were put in Japanese prisoner of war camps. And that was based on fact, and there are books about the real women who had to suffer in prisoner of war camps in Japan, Second World War. So, that did happen. But again, we don't really hear about it. My great uncle was killed in February 1942 on the approaches to Singapore. And, if ever you read anything about the Battle of Singapore and the prisoners of war who were in the Japanese prisoner of war camps, you only rarely hear about the men. You don't think about the women, but they were taken into prisoner of war camps and treated probably not quite as harshly as the men, but they didn't have a holiday camp. It weren't fun.
It wasn't vacation.
But
it was considered unseemly for women to be in the limelight. And it's so, and that kind of old age thinking just carried on for a little bit longer for women than it did in other subjects. Just saying.
Well, no, but speaking about reform, I want to go back to Mike on this because he's written 2 books. How many books now? 3? He's got 3 books on Hal Moore, Mike. And people probably know it also from the movie We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. Mike wrote Hal Moore, A Soldier Once and Always. He's got a couple others also. But Mike, one of the stories from Hal Moore is his wife. And didn't she reform things for women, the wives at home, in regards to, the taxi would pull up. And it was just this cruel thing for women to think every time they saw a taxi, it was that their husband is dead. You know what I mean? So what can you give everyone a little bit of insight to Mrs. Moore? Because she should be popularized on today. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So his wife was an incredible lady, and it was often said if there was anyone who was built to be a military spouse, it was her. And at the outset of our combat mission in Vietnam, you had the unfortunate circumstance where a lot of the casualty notification telegrams were coming in at a faster rate than what the Army could actually process them, because the standard operating procedure, as it was that any time a family member would be notified of one of their soldiers' deaths, the telegram would always arrive, and it would be delivered by a uniformed officer, very often with a chaplain in tow. And you had that team effort there as a function to help to help that poor person try and navigate their way through the grief. But because these casualty telegrams were coming in faster than anyone had expected, they took an incredibly callous approach by hiring the yellow cab company to deliver the telegrams to all of these brand new war widows, and they weren't even making even a half-hearted attempt to put a person or put any type of a grief counselor behind the delivery of those telegrams. So what you had happening, as soon as Julie Moore found out about it, she raised unshirted hell and said, "Hey, all of these grieving war spouses, they need and they deserve better than this." So she took it upon herself to become her own casualty notification team and told the yellow cab company, hey, any of these telegrams that you get, please give them to me first, because these women are in my husband's unit, and I can provide some type of comfort, and at least any type of comfort that is better than an unnamed cab driver, just leaving the telegram in the door.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
it was and it was her efforts in that regard that led to the Army revamping its casualty notification teams, and putting more resources and more mental health resources behind the whole process of casualty notification.
An amazing woman. It was really cool to see her in the museum, the Hal Moore Museum in Bardstown. See her get a lot of recognition that she really deserved. Right. And thanks for sharing her story, and also in all your books on Hal Moore. Everyone, Mike Guardia will be back on tomorrow's show. We're going to host a live broadcast. That will be March 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be talking about prisoner of war camps in World War II and also in Vietnam. So thanks so much for joining us on the show, Mike. It is always a pleasure, and we'll chat with you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to be on the show, ladies. And I will talk to you all tomorrow.
All right.
Cool.
Everyone, again, MikeGuardia.com. And stay tuned. Glynn is with us to hear from Norfolk Tours in England. And the Big Blend Party Bus is going to hop over to San Diego, sunny San Diego again. We're going to go pick up Ward Heinrichs, our San Diego employment attorney. And you never know what we're going to talk about. So stay tuned. Listening to Big Blend Radio's special Champagne Sundays Toast to Women Around the World. We have Glynn Burrows here from Norfolk Tours sitting in as guest co-host. Glynn, how are you doing over there in Norfolk, England? Is it sundown? It's like sundown now, right? It's evening time.
Yeah, it's blackout here. Yeah, that's it's just gone 8 o'clock at night. So yeah, it's definitely sundown.
Oh, well, at least, hey, we didn't have a time change, because sometimes we've done these live shows and the time changes, and we're like, what? What happened? You never know. Well, I tell you what, we're going to go somewhere sunny. We're going to go to San Diego. Our next guest is Ward Heinrichs. He's a San Diego employment attorney. He's on our show every fourth Wednesday, and, of course, he joins us on special parties, and I encourage you to go to his website. It's bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com. But welcome to the show, Ward. How are you?
I'm doing well this Sunday morning. I had a great evening last night. Speaking of a lady that I think is very special, it's my middle daughter who goes to UCLA, and I drove her up there.
Awesome.
She was down for the weekend, and we saw the basketball game last night, USC-UCLA, big rivalry, and UCLA won. So we had a great time. Things are going well.
Against USC, we're supposed to root for USC right now.
Yeah, right.
We were there at a UCLA and a USC football game where Nancy and I just kept jumping up and saying, I don't know, look at the horse thing going around, the Trojan horse. The Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is cool, but we don't know much about sports, but this is important. We've got to shout out for women in sports because we are making a push. I mean, look at us in soccer and look at basketball, baseball, the Olympics. We're rooting. We're kicking butt, right, Ward? Come on, we are. Women are out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All my daughters were involved in sports. Softball was a big part of that, and that's huge in Southern California. Mm-hmm. So that sport is really showcasing fine female talent.
Awesome. Right on. We know how to do it. I played hockey, where I used to run around with a stick and whack people's ankles.
Yeah, me too.
We had netball. Yeah.
So you're talking about field hockey, probably.
Yes, field hockey. And then this lady went after me, started chasing me around the field the very first time, and then I ran around. So I got long legs and I could run in those days as a kid. And so then they made me the sweeper because I knew how to dodge people. But then I learned, you know what? I'm just going to whack their ankles if they come near me. But I moved on up, and then and now I wonder why I have ankle problems. It's like, talk about karma.
And I know why. I was always in the headmaster's office.
I know. It's like,
always. Gosh, I don't think a day went by.
This was a country where we had rugby, and rugby was like a brutal sport. And I was like,
seriously.
well, field hockey got like that.
Always explaining Lisa's behavior. And my excuse was she's American. What do you want?
Yeah. But Glynn, come on. We say soccer over here, but it's football in England, right? And do you see more women in football in England?
Well, I'm not into football or sport myself, but we do have a lot of women in football now. We have a proper league and everything now. So women definitely are taking part in football. But I'm not interested in it. I like sport when it's amateur. I hate it when it's professional and it's all about the millions and millions and millions of pounds.
Yeah,
it's just not sport anymore. It's just business.
That's kind of got this way here, I think, a little bit. Ward, what do you think? I mean, the sports thing, it's almost like this industry. It is an industry.
Well, there's sports and there's healthy sports.
Huge industry, but I have to say, you really ought to think of professional sports figures as entertainers. And we don't have a problem with entertainers making millions and millions of dollars. And these guys are just entertainers. So I have a different take on it. I think it's fine. I think it's the market working. They draw huge crowds. That's why they can get so much money. They entertain them, thousands, millions of people. And so I think it's okay.
Yeah.
What about wrestlers?
Well, I was a college wrestler. I love wrestling. I love Olympic wrestling. And now they don't have a wrestling league, a professional wrestling league, but the guys who make the guys and gals. The female wrestling. I watched it last Olympics. It was amazing. I mean, the skill level is unbelievable, and I just love wrestling. So, but those guys who are at the top, they get all sorts of endorsement deals, so they really can make a pretty good living at it.
Yeah. Is it true that wrestlers pinch each other's butts too?
Come on, that's TV wrestling.
You're talking about. Oh, no.
I'm trying to be behaved.
He's talking about real wrestlers, not the TV wrestlers.
Yeah, I'm not talking about those actors. Those big guys, the guys that are bigger than linebackers and are yelling all the time.
How do you handle that on a discrimination case, Ward? Because listen, Ward, call Ward. Like he helps women, discrimination cases, sexual harassment. Call Ward. But in that kind of industry, how do you even draw the lines on okay, this is harassment?
There are no lines.
Not. That's got to be
they
that's
make
a whole,
their money
that's a whole
by
show.
Breaking all the rules. I mean, the whole industry. If you go into the TV wrestling arena, you already know.
Yeah.
Don't be calling this shouldn't happen because you already know it's going to happen.
Right. Okay.
But, it's a type of entertainment too, but it's not real wrestling. It's
not
showmanship.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ward, do you have a woman that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I thought of several, and since we have someone on with us from across the pond, I was thinking of Queen Elizabeth, and that was my number 2 pick. I'll tell you about my number 1 pick soon. And I just think she's amazing. Her longevity is amazing. The way the whole country falls, or I guess the whole Commonwealth falls behind her and supports her. She's just easy to like, and it's just amazing that she's in her late 90s and still plugging away. Holy smokes! It astounds me. And then the number 1 is my mother. My mother is an unbelievably successful lady during times when it was hard for women to really have the same opportunities, and she just created her own opportunities, ended up working for some big firms and building in-house medical programs. She got her master's in public health and so she worked for some big like Marriott and I guess not Enron, but anyway, some big companies. Quaker Oats was another one.
Wow.
And she's 85 now. In fact, today is her birthday. So happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mother.
Oh,
that's
wow.
it. Wow.
And she set a great example in work ethic and all those types of things. And so I really admire my mother.
Oh, happy birthday to Mom Heinrichs. That's awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. I love that word. And listen, Glynn just, his article and interview about Queen is up on blendradio.tv.com. And Glynn, it's over 70 years she's been the monarch?
Yeah, she had her 70th anniversary on the 6th of February. So, yes, she's been around longer than sort of most people in the country. There's very few people around who can remember King George VI nowadays. Obviously, you'd need to be well over 80 to remember it.
Oh, man. Amazing.
Talking about Ward's mum, my mum will be 85 on the 21st of March, so they're the same age. So
wow, cool.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey.
Well, happy birthday to your mom.
Yeah.
And talking about wrestling, I am actually well built to be a sumo wrestler. I would. I don't really want to think about wearing one of their nappy things that they wear. But I think I could just about do that.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Wow.
That's good. No,
are
nappy.
you foreshadowing a career change? Is that what I'm
hearing?
hearing?
Yeah, really.
No.
Glynn, they're not nappies, they're bikini bottoms.
Listen. All I remember in England, everybody drove those little mini cars, or you're in the double-decker bus. So a sumo wrestler cannot get in a mini car. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Cannot do that.
We used to have a mini.
Oh my gosh.
I think they need to take care of all the politicians in the world, quite frankly. Just put all the sumo wrestlers out there and take it. Just say, that's it, have at it.
I think
fix it.
All the politicians should line up on a stage in sumo wrestling costumes, and then we vote.
I know. That's awesome. I want to see Boris.
I love that.
Sorry, that's funny.
No, I think there was a mark there.
And then we
boy.
could print up a
We're not
calendar.
supposed to talk politics. No politics. I did it. It's my fault. But listen. I do want to give a shout out to women in sports. Also, in the latest issue of Quality of Life magazine, Ward's article is in there about all the new employment laws in California for 2022. And California is really good at racking up new laws. And there's even more now in fast food. His article's up on blendradio.tv.com.
That's right.
Glynn is also in there with Buy Local Norfolk with the three women. There's two talking about shopping locally, which is very important. But in that same magazine, The Quality of Life, we have a lot of sports stories. It just kind of came to be, and one of them is Rusty Kanakogi, and she is the first lady of judo, and she brought judo into the Olympics, women's judo, and she would not take no. She is a Jewish lady from New York, and she got herself in gangs, and her way out of gangs was to become a judo.
There you go.
So check that out. So anyway, Ward, thank you so much for joining us. It's always fun to have you on the show, and we'll be chatting for your next segment soon.
Yes, thank you. I enjoyed coming on, and you guys have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you. Happy
All
birthday
right.
to your mom again. All right, everyone,
Okay.
best
Thanks so much.
employment attorney SanDiego.com. Now we're going to go up the road from, actually, and all our guests are in California next. So, Glynn, I hope you're going to enjoy this tour of California. We're going to go up to LA area first. We're going to go pick up Linda Ballou, who's a travel writer and an author. Stay tuned. So we're in California now. So we've got Linda Ballou joining us. She is an author and a travel writer, and I encourage you to go to her website, author.com, also lostangeladventures.com. Of course, we've got Glynn Burrows over from Norfolk Tours in England with us, sitting in with Nancy and I as guest co-host. But welcome back, Linda. How are you?
I'm great, Lisa. Glad to be here.
Good to have you back on the show. We've got 3 other ladies joining us from California, so sit tight. Glynn, are you sitting tight? We're going on a tour of California.
Love it.
Yes, I want to get all these women on the show, and then we can twirl around and talk about the women that inspire them. So now we're going to go up to the Bay Area, and we're going to pick up Lisa Sniderman. And Lisa Sniderman is known as Aoede in her folk singing songwriting world, and she does a lot in regards to helping people move through what's going on in their lives if they're suffering from any kind of illness, and to continue moving through with life, especially for artists. And I encourage you to go to her website, aoedemuse.com. That's AOEDE muse.com, and also thegrievingproject.com. So welcome back, Lisa. How are you?
Hi. Oh, it's great. Hi. Great to be here. Can you hear me?
Cool.
Yes. Can you hear us okay? Because I was in the toilet earlier.
She was in the toilet.
And
that's a better way to say it. Yes.
Yes. But I swam out of it.
Excellent. I'm glad
Margot,
you got out.
Yes, Glynn and Margot helped me out. And so hang tight, because we're going to go just up the road from you, and we're going to go to Napa, and we're going to pick up Ruth Milstein. Ruth Milstein is the author of the Gourmand Award-winning cookbook called Cooking with Love, Adventures in the New Israeli Cuisine, and you can keep up with her at ruthmilstein.com. So welcome back, Ruth. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Very good. It's good to hear your voice. We've missed you, and just so glad to have you back on the show. It is awesome. And so now, since we've been to, and Linda Ballou, are you in Topanga Canyon or in LA or Beverly Hills?
I'm in Topanga Canyon, which is an artistic enclave in Los Angeles.
That's right. Beautiful area. I remember driving around there, and it is awesome. Gorgeous. And I love your videos on YouTube, because I always get to see you and see what's going on, the beauty of your area. So it is awesome. So Topanga Canyon. So we started there. Then we went up to the Bay Area to pick up Lisa Sniderman, then Ruth Milstein in Napa. So now we're going to circle back down, because this is how we travel across the country. We're going to go to Sherman Oaks, California, and we're going to pick up Shelley Whizin. So Shelley Whizin is the founder of the Soul Diving Institute. She's also an author, and her latest book is called, I love this book. It's one of my favorites. It is called What You Bring to the Table, a savory, sensory, and inspirational guide to living a yummy, delicious life. You can keep up with Shelley at ShelleyWhizin.com. So welcome back, Shelley. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm great. It's so lovely to be part of this.
Glad to have you back on the show. And we're excited because we're going to chat. We've got Glynn Burrows here, and over at Norfolk Tours in England, and he's a family history buff. So anything you want to know about England, just call Glynn or get on his website, Norfolk-tours.co.uk, or just talk to him now on the show. But let's start with everybody's their inspiration for women. So I'm going to start with Linda Ballou, whose latest book is Embrace of the Wild, and she's also the author of Wainani. Both of them feature strong women. So, Linda, who are you going to talk about today?
All right. Well, what I do is I look for women in history who have been overlooked and not given, their due. And Isabella Bird, although she's well known in Colorado and around the Rocky Mountain Park area because she traveled solo there in 1873 on horseback and wrote about it. And I found her quite inspirational. She was the best-loved travel writer of her day, and a really plucky woman. I mean, she did things that I would not dare to do. And I'm a horse person, but her horseback riding was almost unbelievable. Anyway, she truly inspired me. She lifted herself up from the invalid bed, and at the age of 40, created a whole new life for herself. So I found her to be just an incredible woman, and one that I wanted to shine a light on. And it's she's been receiving. All of a sudden, she's a woman who's become very popular. There have been several books published about her in the last year. One of them, A Man in England, and one, A Woman Here in America, both nonfiction. And BBC is doing a documentary about her.
Glynn.
Unbelievable. They're doing a thing, it's called Trailblazers, and they've selected Isabella as one of those women that they're going to spotlight. And they have talked to me about coming in April when they're going to be shooting in Estes Park, which I would dearly love to do.
Cool.
But in September, I'm definitely going and doing my own mountain tour, hiking and riding in her hoof prints, and
nice.
go all the place. And I'm doing some signings and book talks in Estes Park. So she's turned into a real adventure for me.
Wow.
You never know how these things are going to go. She was my pandemic baby. I would not have written the story if I hadn't been grounded.
See, grounding is good.
Well, so it turned out to be a real bright light in my life. And Wainani, A Voice from Old Hawaii, of course, is inspired by the life of Kahumanu, who was the favorite wife of Kamehameha the Great. Now, if you don't know anything about Hawaii, you don't know who I'm talking about, but if you've ever been there, you'll see their names plastered all over the place, road signs, parks, and so on. They're the best loved icons in Hawaiian history. And she was a very powerful woman. She was his favorite wife out of 32 wives. That's a good trick.
What?
And yeah.
She must have been the quietest one.
Well, when he passed, he made her what was equal to being the prime minister. So he put her in the most powerful position in Hawaii.
Wow.
And she was responsible for the burning of the gods in 1819, which ended the 2,000-year-old Kapu system, which called for human sacrifice.
Yeah,
and lots of other nasty things.
Yeah.
So she's a very controversial figure. It's her birthday this month. March is her birthday, and they have a big celebration for her on Maui every year, which I would love to attend. But I did get to go to her birthplace, which was a cave in Hana. If anybody knows about Hawaii, it's a very special place in the islands, very isolated away from everybody. And she was born in a cave there in Hana. And the waters around her cave are considered to be healing and spiritual and kind of magical. And I was honored by the Voyaging Club there and they took me to her cave, and that was a very, very special place.
Can you imagine, like, there's 32 children and everybody wants to be king or queen, and you have 31 other people wanting your spot?
Well, it was pretty well spelled out in the Kapu system. There was inbreeding to determine, to keep the bloodlines clean, and she was one of 32 wives, but he bred with the high chiefess who was of the pure bloodline, so that he would have an heir that was of the bloodline. So there wasn't any argument about who was going to be his heir. But as I say, she was like prime minister, given equal weight with his son. So it was a pretty bizarre situation.
So this is the prime minister. Did she ever, meet Maggie Thatcher? That would have been interesting.
It sounds like you're talking about horses.
I know they bred this.
Well, the old royal families, tried to, were inbreeding, and it turned out you had a lot of health problems with that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the Hawaiians, with their inbreeding, what they got was people who were over 6 feet tall, very statuesque, long limbed, very athletic. They would kill babies that weren't perfect, unlike.
Oh, yikes!
It was a primitive culture in many ways, but a very beautiful culture in many other ways.
So it works for some, but some not. Let's put it that way. It's interesting. That's interesting. I want to move forward, and everyone keep up Linda and her books at lindaballouauthor.com. Ruth Milstein, who are you raising a glass to today?
To all the women in the world, we are stronger, we are real. We can do more than we think.
Yeah.
Which men can do that.
Yeah.
Men give him one job, he can finish it.
Uh-oh, Glynn. Glynn, close your ears.
But they're good protectors. And we can even have a gun today. So it doesn't protect us if we want.
Well, listen,
we don't want, but...
I want to say this about Israeli women.
Yes.
This is something, that is not, a usual thing you see, in South Africa. We've talked about this in before on shows, when I graduated high school in South Africa, all my guy friends either went to college or to military, and if they went to college, they had to go to military for 2 years. But Israeli girls went into the military, which is something...
When they're 18. Not even 18, a child.
Yeah, in Israel, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. So that's a big difference.
And after 2 years, you are a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to college, you go to university, and you're a woman. You have all the friends in the world there. You meet the best friend. Sometimes you meet the husband there. Most of the time, yeah. And it's good. It's good. It's good.
Really, the difference between men and women as far it's really physical stature, and that's not even true most of the time, anymore. It's about muscles, who's stronger. It's physical. It isn't mental. So it's physical, but a really smart woman can take down a really feeble man. So it's what it is, and it's I like the idea of just working together to get good things done and not having divisions between male, female, race, or whatever. Just
amen.
Yeah, just work together to get what needs to be done, like climate change and all these things that are happening, and instead of all these divisions that make no sense.
I agree.
They're over 100, 200 years old, people. Let it go.
Yeah, Ruth, with your book being Cooking with Love, is there a woman that inspired you cooking-wise in your life?
Yes, my mom.
Cool.
My mom, she was great. She didn't have help at home, and she did everything. She did everything. We tried to help her. No, you go to study. You go to study. Go to your friend. Your friend came. Stay with her. But she works so hard. So hard.
Yeah.
And my father also works. I mean, he works in Israel at that time. They work 6 days a week. Yeah, 6 days a week, not 7 days. Yes, including Friday. He works 6 days a week. It was hard. And she didn't even let us help her. If you have a time, want to help me, stay with your friend. You're still a child.
Oh my God!
I'm not always really.
I want your mother.
Well, but there's a good point in that. If you grow up too fast, you get into trouble, and then by the time you're a teenager, your mommy's really in trouble. Just saying.
And Shelley, I love this. You and Ruth and your cookbooks are amazing, both of you, with what you do. Shelley, is there a woman you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I want to give a shout out to Florence Nightingale. And I idolized her when I was a young child because she just went where she was needed to go, and she had this calling to go out into the fields. And it's funny because we talk about Israel. When I first went to Israel after hitchhiking in Europe for 6 months and landing in Israel, I met this. My cousin's grandfather was talking about kibbutz life, and so I was just so idealized that whole life. The spirit in Israel was so high. It was 1969, and I just wanted to go be like Florence Nightingale. She was my idol. when they said, when I went to the kibbutz and they said, oh, we have a kibbutz that's on that desperately needs girl volunteers. That's all I had to hear. Desperately needs girl volunteers. And I said, she says, but it's on the border of Jordan and Israel, and there might be bombing. I thought, oh my God, oh shit, bombing. I'm going to go where I'm needed. It just felt like I was Florence Nightingale being called to go to the field, and I was ready to, to serve the soldiers out in the field. I didn't know what the hell I was thinking or talking about. I didn't know anything. But so she was this woman who grew up in an affluent, family. They were very high in society, and she wanted to be a nurse, and her parents were like, oh my God, you can't be a nurse. That's below your standard. Yeah. And she did it anyway. She went to nursing school, and she created hygiene practices that they didn't have before, and she called upon like 34 nurses to go out into the field to help the soldiers. So I think going against society and going against what's expected of us as women and doing it anyway. And so she stood out in my mind when you said that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good pick. And your life, I mean, Shelley, you've been all over the world, but I love that you connect back to Israel with Ruth on the show. And Ruth, did you work on a kibbutz? I know that you did a lot with olives at one point in your life, olive farming, right, and harvesting.
Oh, they have a lot of olive. The olive in Israel is so fresh.
Oh, yeah.
Yum. And the olive oil, the first, it's great. You can drink it from the bottle. Of the calorie.
So it's good for you. It's good for you.
Yes, it's good for you. It's good for you. And
I love that.
Yes.
Did you go in? Did you work
in a dark
in a
area, and that's it.
Did you work in a kibbutz when you were?
Me, as a volunteer. That's all.
A volunteer.
I can't live in kibbutz. It's too close. I'm city person.
I know. She's ready to go back to New York City, but you did serve. You did serve in the military, right?
Sure. It's mandatory. Mandatory. You're 18.
Wow.
You're 18. If you study or something, they delay it. They work with you. They work with you. No problem. And you can join the military and study, and they will pay. They will pay everything, yes, but you have to serve more than the 2 years. Women is 2 years, men it's around 3. It changed sometime. It changed, yes, but you have to. If you study, you have to give them like another year or 2 or something, or you can sign. It's going to be your job for life. If you like the job, that's it. Nice salary, nice. Oh, they give you everything there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I want to go to Lisa Sniderman here over in the Bay Area, singer-songwriter. Who are the women you want to raise a glass to?
Well, I actually want to speak to Israel first because I have a quick experience about it too. When I was 17, that was my journey. I did something called Israel Summer Institute, where I did a 6 weeks, journey, so to speak, with other Jewish teens through BBYO, B'nai B'rith Youth Organization. And what I remember, it was 6 weeks, and my specialty was archaeological dig. So we all did pretty much the same things, but we got to specialize in something. And what I remember about that trip is I ended up writing my college essay on exactly what Ruth and others are talking about, which is the differences. As an American going there, I remember there were gun racks in the showers. And that was something, you know what I mean? The women could not even leave their guns. They had to leave them even in the shower. So there was really distinct differences between, like, when I was 17, I had options in front of me. I could go to college. I could get a trade. I could do nothing. I could work, whatever. But, versus mandatory army. And so there were a lot of discussions with other Israelis about it. And that was really, eye-opening for me socially.
I bet.
One second. If a woman, 18 years old, she doesn't want to go, yes?
Yeah.
She doesn't want to go, yes? And she really doesn't want to go, they don't want her. Yeah,
they don't want her.
No,
Oh.
if she don't want to go, they don't want her. And after that, try to go to college. Try. The first thing you're going to ask her, what did you do in the military? She's going to say, I didn't like it, I didn't go. She's going to be in the end of the list.
Wow. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so that was the first, I just wanted to comment on that. But today, so you know me mainly as my artistry as Aoede, as you were saying, but another hat I wore for many years was environmental scientist. Cool. And I was protecting California's bays and coastal water quality from development and water pollution impacts. And there are several women environmental pioneers that inspired me to follow this passion that combines my sociology and like resources like water. And I wanted to just comment on a couple of them because they're all sort of in the same frame of women pioneers who were social. Starting, you know, like the whole environmental movement is actually a social movement first. So starting with people like Jane Addams, who is a really prominent reformer in early 20th century. She was responsible for uncovering a lot of health concerns and advocating for environmental quality. And even before there was environmental justice, she was doing things like uncovering lead poisoning, you know, and industrial poisonings in low-income communities. And a lot of people know her most for she co-founded something called Hull House, which was a settlement house in Chicago in 1889. And it offered immigrants, you know, accommodation and education and opportunities to, you know, to do things in society. And she was the first American woman and only the second woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931.
Good choice.
So what I love about this is it's like everything was all about social, you know, and of course, environmental is so tied, you know, to things like health. You know, you think about asthma or our kids, you know, mothers and kids, and then we tie that to environment. And that's sort of how the environmental movement started. And another one who influenced me in the same vein is Rachel Carson.
There we go.
Silent
my person.
Rachel Carson, when I was growing up and, you know, in my all of my environmental work. So Rachel Carson was an American marine biologist, and she published Silent Spring in 1962. And for people who may not know, it basically was this alert to indiscriminate use of pesticides. And it actually was really both controversial, but also spurred a lot of changes in environmental law. And it helped launch the environmental movement and also ban DDT. So even within a few years of that book, Nixon administration formed EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. So that one was like huge. And then the next one, because I have to say it was, you know, more in my era, was Erin Brockovich.
Yes.
People who were and I don't want to say just a law clerk, but somebody who was outside of the movement who actually became a huge advocate and activist. And she was instrumental in building a major case against PG&E at the time for groundwater contamination in California. And they dumped something like hundreds of millions of gallons of, contaminated groundwater into a place that residents started reporting all these strange illnesses. And if people don't know the story, they can actually watch a movie called Erin Brockovich.
Yes, and I'm going to stop
Yeah.
you there because we actually have a Hollywood history segment with her coming up.
How cool is that?
Hollywood history segment covers her, so no spoilers allowed.
But you know, Rachel Carson wrote The Sea Around Us, which I read in biology class because a biology teacher gave it to me, his personal book, and said, you need to read this. Because we're on the same page of how, and she got how the world really worked. And if you read The Sea Around Us, it is point blank, this is how it works. And the minute you step outside of it, you're going to mess it up. in a million different ways that trickle down, and that book that's my Bible right there.
Right.
I love it.
I'm glad you got Nancy's pick there, but ladies, this is one of those fast-moving shows, and we're going to have to get on to our next segment.
Yep.
But thank you so much. Lisa Sniderman, everyone, keep up with her. She's always got some amazing projects going on, like the Grieving Project. Check that out. I know, it's like, hello, welcome to the show.
She took my person.
The grievingproject.com and also aedmuse.com to keep up with Lisa. Keep up with Shelley at ShelleyWhizin.com. She's also got an amazing Facebook group. Shelley, is it Shelley Whizin that people do for their Facebook group?
They go to the Shelley Whizin business page, and then inside that page is a group where we're going to talk about soul diving into yourself, and ways to nurture and nourish yourself.
Awesome.
So, and it's in that group. The group is in the Shelley Whizin business page, Facebook page.
Okay, awesome. Keep up with Shelley there. And also don't forget her book. And her book is What Do You Bring to the Table? A Savory, Sensory, and Inspirational Guide to Living a Yummy, Delicious Life, because she really wants us to walk around saying yummy, delicious. Also, keep up with Ruth. And Ruth, you've got another book coming out soon, right?
Yes, it's very soon.
We're excited. We're ready. We're waiting. But right now, you can get her award-winning, gourmand award-winning book, Cooking with Love, Ventures into the New Israeli Cuisine. Just go to Amazon, all those places, and go to RuthMilstein.com. And, of course, keep up with Linda Ballou at LindaBallouAuthor.com and also LostAngelAdventures.com. Her latest book's being Embrace of the Wild. You can also get Lost Angel Walkabout and Wainani. Go get that, too. So thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, I just want to tell Shelley I've got a piece called Romancing the Soul that I'm going to send her.
Okay, I love it. Here's my email is Shelley at ShelleyWhizin.com.
I'll connect you guys.
I'll contact you, Shelley.
Thanks, you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Glynn, are you still there? I mean, that's a lot of women in one segment for you.
Yeah.
You did good.
I'm surrounded by women. I'm surrounded by women in my life. I've got 3 granddaughters, so you know.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, we're going to go to Portland, Oregon now to chat with John Durant, an amazing guitarist. But before we bring him on, we're going to share a song. It's a brand new song out there. It's called Big Door, and it's Edwin Durant Kovtun, and he's going to tell us about it. But I encourage everyone to go to this website, and it really helps Ukraine through the Red Cross. It's just go do it. It is aeappeal.bandcamp.com. And go there. And Bandcamp, really, when it comes to purchasing music, is the place to go if you're going to buy streaming music, where the musicians actually get the money, especially on Fridays. But
you need to announce the website again.
aeappeal.bandcamp.com. And I know he will also tell us a little bit more about that. So Stay tuned. We're going to play the song Big Door, and then we're going to bring him on this show. And here it is. This is a beautiful, beautiful piece. And he was on the show a few years back with the album the 3 of them put together. So take a listen.
Як нас тут не буде, нехай брешуть, наберуться
Radio's Champagne Sundays Toast to Women Around the World, and that was Big Door, and that is by Edwin, Durant, and Cofton, and they've done an album together before, but we're very excited to have guitarist John Durant join us here, along with Glynn Burrows being our guest co-host from Norfolk, England. So welcome back, John. How are you?
I am okay, all things considered. It's nice to talk to you guys again. I wish it were under better circumstances, but here we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about this song, because and that's Ina singing, and it's just amazing. Her voice is just so. I love that song, by the way. You know I would.
Yeah, I mean, her voice is just astonishing. She's incredibly gifted and has this just wonderful character to her voice, and it's so expressive, and so she has such range. And my wife always cracks up. She, because Ina's this tiny little girl who gets so much power out of her voice, and April's like, how does she do this? I don't understand.
And everyone should know Ina's from Ukraine, Colin is in England, and John is in America. So your music is this big bridge between the three countries, and so
it is indeed.
Big Door makes
and in most of the pieces that we do come from traditional Ukrainian folk songs, and this in particular is a very clear case of being a traditional Ukrainian tune that Ina and I put together. She came over last fall to visit me for a couple of weeks, and among lots of other things that we did, touristy sorts of things, and lots of cooking and what have you, as I always do. But we also made some music, and the four things we did are all very different, and they're all going to get released over the course of the next month or two. And this is a really beautiful song that the nice thing is Ina can now tell me more about what the lyrics are, since I don't speak any Ukrainian and her English is improving slightly, and it's kind of it's a really beautiful but sad love story where a man and a woman are very much in love, and everybody can see that, but they can't be together, and so they have to keep their love hidden behind a big door.
Wow. And so this song, the proceeds are going to the Red Cross to help Ukraine?
Everything, yes. Everything on that AE Appeal Bandcamp page, which include the Astarta Edwin album, and Colin did a collection of remixes and some outtakes from that first one, and then the Edwin Durant Cofton album, and then as we release the singles, they will go on there too. And they are all pay whatever you want. So you're welcome to just download the music and enjoy it, but we really hope you'll be very generous, and because every cent that's raised, we're not taking any of it. It's all going directly to the Red Cross Ukraine Fund.
Okay, so it's aeappeal.bandcamp.com, everyone. That's the website. So aeappeal.bandcamp.com. So we're really glad you could join us. I know it was so last minute, and but we've got to hold Ina and her family up today as we toast women around the world. We've got to toast all the women and mothers in Ukraine and of Ukraine descent, and even we've got to also look at the Russian moms and women too, because they're not that safe either. Just saying.
No, and I mean, just looking at the outflow of these women and children to Poland and Slovenia and Hungary, and it's just heartbreaking.
Glynn, are you getting a lot of news like we are? Obviously, you've got the BBC, which is one of the best places to actually get world news these days. That is pretty factual compared. Just saying, without it being entertainment. Glynn, are you seeing a lot happening in England in regards to what's happening in Ukraine and beyond?
We're getting a lot of news broadcasts, but, again, like you say, it's very difficult to know how much we're seeing and what we're seeing and whether it's real or not. And, especially nowadays, it's just getting so unknown as to what we're being fed. But like it's been already said, it doesn't really matter whether we're getting told the truth or not. We know that there are a lot of people suffering on both sides. And like in any war, it's the people in the street who are suffering. It's not the big people who are making the decisions. It's the mums of the soldiers from Russia who are worried about their sons. It's the mothers in Ukraine who are trying to get their children safe. But it's also everybody else who's just trying to help. And it's the people on the street who are trying to help. It's not what the politicians can do. It's what we can do as individuals. And if we all work together, we can help people. But it's really difficult to know what's propaganda and what isn't.
That's for sure.
That's true. But, I think you're right. We all have to do what we can, and it comes down to individuals like John, what you and Colin Edwin are doing from Burnt Belief. And, by the way, I've got a new album out. Just saying, too. Yeah. But, what you guys are doing, I think that's, we can all do something. Whatever we can do, let's do. It feels better because it's very hard to be on the outside. You want to go in. We were doing a radio conversation a few days ago, and I'm like, why can't we just take Putin out? Why, can't we just, you want to fix things, and it's hard to not be able to fix things, but we can do things.
I have to say the hardest part for me in all of this is sitting here thinking I want to help in some meaningful way. I want to do whatever I can, and very specifically with regards to Ina and her daughter, they had to leave, her husband Sasha behind, and they did make it to Poland, and now I'm trying to get them here so that they can come and live here with me as long as they need to, so that they'll at least have safety. Clothing and food and shelter and safety and do what I can to help these amazing people.
Yeah. Well, hats off to you, and thank you for doing that. And I wish you just stayed there when she was there in the fall. That was the first thing as I heard what was happening. I was just like, why didn't you just stay there?
The hardest part of all is the complicating factor is one of visas, because she has a visa that's good for another 5 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. Her daughter doesn't have one, and we still haven't opened up the possibility of a 7-year-old girl coming in with her mother under these circumstances. It should be a no-brainer.
You would think,
You would think, but it's still complicated, and so in any case, I've been spending a lot of time trying to get this sorted out, finding a way to make it happen.
Thank you so much. We've got to run. I know this so sucks. It's such a fast show, and so everyone, again, go to the website and get the music. This is one way we can all help. It's aeappeal.bandcamp.com. Also, keep up with John at John Durant Rocks. Excuse me. He does rock. It's John, it's Jon, JohnDurant.rocks. And also Glynn over at Norfolk-tours.co.uk. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Glynn, for sitting in on the whole show with us and for helping me get out of the toilet. Thank you so much.
Lovely to keep up with you girls.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Lovely to talk to you guys.
Take care, and here it is. Some Hollywood history from Steve Schneickert focusing on women activists. Take a listen, and thank you all for joining us here on Big Glen Radio. We appreciate you all as part of our journey.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Several movements have developed over the years. They vary in goals, strategies, and affiliations. They often overlap, and some identify themselves with several branches of thought. Accident or murder. Based on a true story, 1983 Silkwood, directed by Mike Nichols, begins and ends with Karen Silkwood, Meryl Streep, driving along a lonely road in 1974, heading to meet with a New York Times reporter to deliver evidence of negligence at the Kerr-McGee plant in Cimarron, Oklahoma. The balance of the film flashes back to Karen's ribald private life with her lover, Kurt Russell, and her loose living friends, Cher and Diana Scarwood. This is in contrast to her humdrum job at Kerr-McGee, or at least it was humdrum, until Karen and several other employees became contaminated by radiation. The higher-ups want to sweep this incident under the rug, but Karen thinks that something is fishy and informs the union of that fact. X-rays of faulty fuel rods and written proof of the inadequate safety measures that caused Karen's illness are tampered with, forcing Karen to conduct her own private investigation. As she gathers evidence, Karen becomes a pariah to her boyfriend because of her obsession. She finally organizes the evidence into a briefcase and heads off to her meeting with the Times reporter. She never makes it. The official report on her fatal auto accident is that Ms. Silkwood had been drinking and was under the influence of tranquilizers. Kerr-McGee was eventually forced to pay the Silkwood family an enormous settlement because of her contamination. The full facts behind her convenient accident have never been revealed, though the filmmakers clearly indicated whom they hold responsible. Erin Brockovich, a 2000 biographical film directed by Steven Soderbergh. The film is a dramatization of the true story of Erin Brockovich, portrayed by Oscar winner Julia Roberts, who, despite the lack of a formal education in the law, was instrumental in building a case against the corporation Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, of California in 1993, directed by Martin Ritt, and starring Oscar winner Sally Field, 1979's Norma Ray, based on the true story of Crystal Lee Sutton, a factory worker from a small town in North Carolina, who becomes involved in the labor union activities at the textile factory where she works. On a lighter note, Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. A shout-out to Doris Day. Since her retirement from the film industry in 1975, she has devoted much of her time as an animal rights advocate. I am Steve Schneickert, and this is Hollywood History as I recall it.